Alright, so with finishing this fretboard, I'm going to actually use a product called Waterlux. It's a tongue oil, but it's a really hard, deep penetrating tongue oil. I've used it on floors, and I'm going to use it on this fretboard because I want that really hard finish. Tongue oil or true oil, if I put true oil on this, eventually that would wear away, and that's not what I want on a fretboard, and I don't want to lacquer this guitar. I want to leave it with an oil. So I'm going to use this Waterlux product. It's got a medium sheen. You know, it's a tongue oil, but it really smells. So I'm banishing myself outside here. It's still a little bit warm in Chicago. It's about 50 degrees. Not ideal to put this down, but I'll leave this in my garage and let it dry overnight. I'm going to leave the bottle out of view so no one concentrates on that. Just gonna rub this in. It's got a beautiful tone to it. It's really gonna bring out these bird's eyes. I want to get one coat on before I finish the rest of this guitar, so that way if there's any scratches or dents, you know, the fretboard will be hardened up. Make sure you do the walnut keys separately from the rest. That way you don't get any bleeding from the sawdust or anything. You know, I wiped this fretboard down with naphtha before I finished it, but you don't want to have any streaks. So now I got a little bit of darkness. I'm gonna flip this to the side, put a second coat here. Key is to get, you know, where the frets are. Get it really close in underneath there. So like I said, this Waterlux product stinks, but it's great. I used it on oak flooring in my last house before I moved out. The finish had worn away, and I put the Waterlux down, and after about 2 coats, it looked like the floors had been finished within the last 5 years. So I just left it. Didn't have to sand, didn't have to do anything with it. It's really a great product. So I've got an extra bottle, and I'm going to use it on this fretboard. Now that I got the coats in, I can go back and forth where the walnut keys are for the inlays. I haven't carved the neck fully, so I'm careful with the sides. I taped off the sides just so I get that first coat on. I might finish the guitar in this whole product. I'm unsure yet. Alright, so we got a clean rag now. We're just going to go back and peel off any of the excess. I got most of it off. And like I said, we'll just let this sit a couple hours and go back and put a second coat on. Next step is to wipe the body down with naphtha. It's not going to raise the grain, but it'll take all the dust off here. Alright, so before I put the final finish on the guitar, and after I wiped it down with naphtha, I took a pencil and I went over the whole guitar looking for any scratches. And I can see some scratches here and there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my hand sander and see if I can sand these out by hand. I want to make sure I've got all the imperfections that I can see out. And then again, I'll wipe it down with naphtha once more. So when I'm going through and cleaning up these last couple nicks, I've got all my sanding blocks laid out. Got 180, 220, 320, 400, 600. And just depending on how deep the scratch is, I kind of know what sandpaper I got to go with. So there's a little swirl mark right here, and that's about a 320 scratch. So I'll go back and forth here. And I'll go back in a little bit of a semicircle here. Still see it? And that's what I'll do with every pencil mark, is I'll go back, depending how deep the scratch is, I'll start with 180, 220, 320, and just keep going up. I've got most of the scratches out on the back side here. I got a couple here I got to work on, but then mainly on the sides and up here is where you get scratches. The body has no scratches. I've taken this towel down and I've wiped off where all the sand paper was to make sure that I've got no scratches. I'm going to take this outside once more and use naphtha and wipe it down once more. And then I'm going to start finishing. Alright, so we're going to start finishing the guitar. I've got my Waterlux Original medium sheen. I've got this on a clamp here so I can move it around. That way when I'm done, just prop it up here and leave it. Start with the face. Again, last night I cleaned off the guitar with naphtha after I sanded it down to 600. Alright, so now we're going on to coat 2 of the Firebird. And surprisingly, the Firebird did soak up a decent amount of this oil. I thought it would build a little bit for the first coat, and actually it didn't at all. It really soaked in. So we're going to go with the second coat. This time, I'm just going to do the top and the fretboard again. The first coat I wanted to make sure I got it all over the place, but now that I've got the start of something, I want to make sure I get a little bit more focused. Since this has got so many different pieces of wood, I want to make sure that I'm following the grain pattern as I'm applying this. You know, I'm not going across, and I'm going with the grain. I can see as I'm applying it, when I go the other direction, streaks kind of stand up. So going this way, I know I'm getting it into the grain. So I've got about 3 coats on. In a couple spots it's not going on evenly. So what I'm going to do is take some steel wool and just kind of take off that first layer, I guess. It's really going to pull off any high spots on the finish. Take then paper towel, make sure all the fuzz is out. I'm not going to do this over the fretboard because as I play I'll kind of wear that in a little bit, and I don't want to go over the frets because I've polished the frets. But here I'm just looking to pick up any of the metal shavings. And I've got this all cleaned up. Gonna go back with one more coat. And this is where I'll start to see a real high sheen. Alright, so here's the guitar finished in Waterlux. It's got a beautiful, beautiful color, front and back. This is about 4 coats. Fretboard looks outstanding. It's a hard finish for being a tung oil. It's absolutely stunning. Really happy with the way this turned out. Really smooth because of how much I sanded on it. I think my favorite part is actually the neck with the carve and looking at the maple.